What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA strategy show presented by PrizePicks. I am Dave Loughran at Laffy_D on the Twitters. Podcast listeners, it's LOUGHY_D. Never forget it. With Joshua Engleman at Josh Engleman. Man, let me tell you, bruv. I had a great night last night. Very fun night in the world of Philadelphia athletics.
I thought it was all doom and gloom, man. I thought it was all doom and gloom.
You have to play it that way. I'm telling you.
35-point win or whatever the hell it ended up being.
Listen, I did tell you, though, right, yesterday that you were right about that. I'm just an eternal pessimist when it comes to this, so I have to play it that way in order to brace myself for what I thought could be impending doom. You know what I mean?
Give him a spanking.
They smoked them, man. Harden actually looked explosive too, which was one of the best things I've seen from him. This is the first time all series that he's been able to get to the rack, get some fouls, and get buckets. And he made some sick threes. Also, a closeout by Gary Trent. Trent. I think it was Trent on Harden that wasn't called a foul. That was like some Kawhi Leonard type playoff shit that should have absolutely been called. That could have broke his ankle, man.
Yeah, it wasn't good. The starting lineup, man, they just smacked the living crap out of Toronto in Toronto. It's insane.
Yeah, even Danny Green had, 4 threes. Maxey dropped 25. Harden 22 and 15. I'm just going off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure Embiid 33. What did Harris have? Like
19, 11.
Oh, yeah. He had a double-double, right? Yeah. So the bench only scored, if you're not including garbage time, the bench had like 11 points when they pulled the starters. So
yeah, there wasn't much to it. I mean, Springer had 4.
Yeah, that's insane that he got playoff minutes. Obviously, not real playoff minutes, but he can now say he's participated in a game 6 of the postseason.
Rough one for Precious Achiuwa yesterday.
Yeah, not great.
1 of 7, 22 minutes, 3, 2, and 1.
It was tough. I mean, he got some field goal attempts. He got some minutes. It just wasn't there.
I mean, none of us expected the 35-point ass beating.
or Chris Boucher to light them up in the first half.
Yeah, I can't even.
Boucher had like 15 points in the first quarter or something insane. He really did. He was unreal early on.
It's legitimately annoying.
When you got a guy like that just going, you're going to try and get him the basketball. It's just the way it is,
Yeah, you have
that's what's tough about basketball, though. In football, once in a while you might employ the hot hand approach, maybe at running back, right? Or maybe a wide receiver is just getting open, so you go away from the guy that you expect to get the ball before the game. It happens. Baseball, that doesn't happen. But in basketball, it is an odd situation where, like, if the hot hand is working, you just keep running with it.
Like it's a weird situation where you kind of acknowledge that guy isn't like the guy that you want to go to regularly. And it shouldn't be this way, but if he's playing well, it's just like, oh, well, I guess today's the day I play him more. I don't know if you should be doing that. Like, I don't think I've ever read any studies or anything where, like, I have to assume that's actually a bad thing to do.
I don't. I mean,
I just don't know if you could even measure it.
I don't either. And I was going to use yesterday's example. You can't use one game, but it was 62-61 at halftime when Boucher had that monster half and then settled down in the second. Sixers outscored him like 37-17 in the third. They just... Yeah. I'm pretty sure Toronto scored less than 40 points in the second half.
Dude, it was a coin flip, and then at the unpredictable at the 6-minute mark of the third quarter, Toronto's win probability was down to 3.5%. And it was basically a 45, basically a coin flip at the half. Down to 3.5%. That's just nuts, dude. Nuts.
I know.
All of a sudden, it was just over.
Over. Yeah, it was over. It was over. I know you're not big on the draft, but if you're in Philly, I had some of the boys over last night. Dude, my wife even came down, had some drinks with us and hung out and watched it. We had a good time. She obviously, she went up, and then around, I don't know what time it was, and then we broke out the meth.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm glad you made it to the show today.
I haven't slept.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So in all seriousness though, when that AJ Brown news broke, we were so stoked, man. Because if you think of it this way, the Eagles are so bad, and just, you guys bear with me for a second. Let me just get it out of the system. When the Eagles draft wide receivers, they generally fail on all levels. Like, they got Devontae Smith, he's going to be good, but JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Jalen Reagor, when they could have had Justin Jefferson, everything goes awry. So instead they go, all right, we'll give up the 18 and the 101, which was a compensatory pick that they got from New Orleans anyway. And let's trade for AJ Brown. What's crazy, and I know they gave him a lot of money, but you will at least appreciate this, even though you're not big on the NFL. I know you will. They gave up the 18 and the 101 for AJ Brown, right? Dominant receiver. You can talk about injuries, whatever you want. I'm not going to be negative right now. Prior to that, like 30 minutes prior, the Cardinals gave up the 23 and the 100 for Marquise Brown.
What do they got to pay him though?
I don't know, but the Christian Kirk reset the whole market for wide receivers.
Yeah.
So it doesn't
think
really
they would
matter.
just ignore that, but
like, if you want a good receiver, you have to pay him. And AJ Brown's 24 years old. My point though is, when you're giving up that much for Hollywood Brown, to get AJ Brown at the 18 and the 101 is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing stuff. And I was thinking about this yesterday. The Eagles, what it all came down to was when they tanked against the Redskins, or were they the football team?
Whoa.
Were they the football team?
Use that word here.
When they were the Redskins, I call them the Redskins. Now
I don't think you're allowed to do that. That's their dead name.
If I talk about them from last season, I'll call them the football team. If I talk about them this season, I'll call them the Commanders. I'm just going to make it confusing as hell.
No, I don't think that's how this
But that's
works,
not
man.
who they played. I think it probably was the football team then. Besides the point, they tanked. Remember, the Giants fans were furious because they thought they should be getting into the playoffs at 8-8 or 6-8 or 6-10, 7-9. They tanked, got the 6 overall pick, traded the Dolphins to move back to the 10. Dolphins take Jalen Waddle. We end up getting Devontae Smith. The Dolphins gave us a first for this year. So essentially, like, you're turning that first, you're turning that 6th that you moved to a 10 into Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, which is pretty damn good.
Could be, yeah.
And
good for the Eagles.
And they have 2 firsts next year. So Phillies complete a 4-game home sweep. Sixers win by, 35. And the Eagles have a good draft day thanks to Howie Roseman. I'm done.
Just out of curiosity, do you guys plan on getting a quarterback at all?
Well, see, this is the thing. They made brilliant moves not doing that, because this was an awful draft class for quarterbacks. I think the first quarterback, the only quarterback, 20th to the Steelers.
Oh, I didn't mean like in the draft, but I guess I do mean in the draft. I just meant in general.
Well, that's why this sets up nicely, because next year the Eagles still have 2 firsts. They traded with New Orleans. They had 3 firsts this year. They traded one of them to New Orleans to get one next year. So now they have 2 next year in a really deep quarterback class. So now you have draft capital to where if you want to move up and get a quarterback, you can. So they're positioned really well, really well.
Well, let's hope they ruin it.
Why do you have to shit on all of this? I mean, come on. Can't you give me one night, one morning?
They call me Amber Heard, man.
Listen.
I know I can't give you anything.
If I walked in the bedroom and Amber Heard was shitting on my bed, I'd be like, that's gross, but you can stay.
Let me get under there.
If it was you, I'm reaching into my gun safe.
Yeah.
That's fair. You would not blame me.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. I feel like that's warranted.
I'd say, Amber, I mean, that's heinous behavior, but clean yourself up.
I mean, I think she'll be fine. I don't get the sense that it gets all over her.
What do you mean? She's not bringing toilet paper onto the mattress.
I mean, I figure if you're doing that, it's like a clean as a whistle right out.
That's how you want to envision it.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, I don't want it to look like Two Girls, One Cup.
She ate chili for like 3 days.
Yeah, no. A lot of dairy.
Anyway. Happy to have you guys with us. We got one game today. A lot of fun. We've had some fun with these shows. You and I always have a blast in the postseason because we can kind of take some liberties, We can
cut our teeth on all sorts of different stuff.
Yes, we can. Before we get into this game, though, hit that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. And if you want to join, hit join down below. Free super chats each month, the custom emojis, but more than anything, just the sweet badges. Got people iced up in there. You can see them from 1 month to the next. You got the year badges in there. Sooner than later, those 2-year badges are coming, but we'll always prioritize your questions and comments along with Discord, premium Discord. So don't feel obligated to super chat. Well, you want to appreciate it, but Chris Paul, seriously, Chris Paul was the real story of last night. I love talking about the Sixers, obviously, because they got the win and they needed it, but Chris Paul literally had a perfect game, Josh.
He did.
Can you read his? Do you have his stat line in front of you by any chance? Because I can pull it up if you don't.
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Can you read this for people who are unaware of what Chris Paul did in Game 6 of a postseason game or series?
Chris Paul was 14 of 14 from the field in 36 minutes. 1 of 1 from 3. 4 of 4 from the free throw line. 8 assists, 5 boards, 3 turnovers, plus 17, which was the high for the team and the only guy in double digits. And dropped 33 real points.
14 of 14.
Yeah.
14 of 14. Granted, only took 1 3, but who cares? It's just a dominant performance.
It was like pretty much all in the mid-range too, which makes it even crazier.
Exactly. His mid-range stroke is so sick, man. It's so nice. If he had 0 turnovers, though, it would have been even more remarkable.
I think he had like 60 something assists and 6 turnovers in the series, something along those lines.
He's still fantastic.
He's great.
Do you think they should be 6-point favorites at home against Dallas?
It felt a little high, but I guess
a little bit
the implication is that Booker will be a bit better. So
yeah, and it might just be recency bias on my part watching Dallas really dominate that series against Utah. I mean, they did. They came in. Yeah.
Based on shot quality, they should have lost yesterday. And obviously, based on Bojan Bogdanovic taking a wide open 3, it was right there for Utah.
Sure, but they didn't.
They certainly didn't.
Yeah, like shot quality is definitely important, but there's a lot more that goes into a basketball game in a series than shot quality.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Utah should have won the series because of Luka being out. I thought it was the closest series of any one of them in the playoffs. I'm not surprised by either outcome. I want to circle back to Chris Paul for 1 second.
Please do.
This is why price matters so much in DFS. He's not in the optimal on FanDuel because he was 10,200. He literally pitched a perfect game of basketball. He did not miss from the field. It's the most made field goals in playoff history without missing.
Is that right? Ever?
Yeah. Wilt had more in a regular season game.
And they were all
obviously
at the basket.
Slightly different ways to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's dunking on 5'8" white mailmen.
Yeah, in Hershey Park, Pennsylvania.
Right, exactly.
Hershey, Pennsylvania.
You were allowed to just play against them if you went to the park and did the chocolate tour.
Dude, check this out.
But yeah, no Chris Paul in the optimal lineup on FanDuel.
So when the Sixers were really, really bad, right? Like tanking teams with Henry Sims starting at center.
Yeah.
The Sixers were terrible. I was a drug and alcohol therapist and once in a while we'd like take them to Sixers games if we could. Throw them all in the van, get them off to a game. Dude, these kids were awesome, man. Some of them were not great. Most of them were great. They came from everywhere. Troubled kids, but you could pay like $7 for a ticket, and we just sit in the nosebleeds. They didn't care. They just wanted to get out. And this facility wasn't exactly funding, floor seats, but
although the floor seats were probably like $15.
Yeah, they would have been way cheaper. Yeah. They were giving these out at the games, which is actually kind of cool. The Wilt Chamberlain floor from the Hershey Stadium for the 100-point game.
You mean the fake 100-point game?
Sure, but there's a point to this story.
That'll be the first time on the show's history for me and you.
I turn around and I'm watching these kids counting 20s and 50s. Now they're not allowed to just obviously as drug addicted youths, not allowed to just walk around with, 50s and 20s and money. And what is going on? So people are coming up to them and just giving them $200, $250 for these. And of course they're taking it. Why would they not? Anybody would.
They should, by the way. They're doing the right thing.
Oh, 100%. You could sell this right now for probably I keep it as just a good memory, but they're probably they're not a lot of money. They're not much, but it's a cool thing. And yeah, these kids just just started hustling out of the gate. The moment I turned my back, dude, making a couple hundred off of them. So yeah, funny stuff. But Wilt Chamberlain's style of play and competition back in the day, slightly different. What do you think Joel Embiid would average on points and rebounds if he was playing in Wilt's?
All of the points. All of them. All of the points and rebounds.
Would Embiid have a 100-point game? Probably.
He should.
Yeah.
He absolutely should have that. Yeah, it should be a dominant affair.
All right, so let's talk a little bit of basketball here. Showdown strategy, first and foremost, since this is the first one-game slate we've had in a while. Last one-game slate you and I talked was the Orlando Magic and the Detroit Pistons on the college football championship day, right? I think that was the last one.
Oh God, that one was a little bit different than this.
Little different. So this is a game 6. You want to talk about win probabilities? In game 3, Timberwolves had a 99.6% win probability, 99.6% with 2 minutes left in the third.
Yeah.
Last game, the Timberwolves had a 96.5% win probability with 9 minutes left in the fourth. They lost both of those games.
That sounds bad.
It's not great.
It feels like you should do better than that.
I was putting some stuff together for the betting show today, for my betting show over on OddsShopper, and they've been Jekyll and Hyde. First quarter, Minnesota's been dominant. Fourth quarter, they've been terrible. Guess their net rating in the fourth quarter.
On 100 per, just in the aggregate.
Yeah,
they got to be minus 30, minus 40.
Yeah, so not plus minus, but net rating. Yeah. They are minus 38.3.
I pieced that together pretty well.
It was very solid. You had a nice range. Net rating's just, you're taking offensive rating, you're taking defensive for anyone wondering.
Points per 100 possessions on offense minus points per 100 possession on defense.
Minus 38.3.
Not good.
They're plus 23.8 in the first quarter of this series. So if you're looking for some betting stuff there, they have been wildly different. They cannot hold on to leads. How do you approach NBA showdowns, though, would be my first question.
Same way I approach regular slates, I guess. It's not, to me, it's basically the same sort of situation. Obviously the lineup construction is different and you're playing the slate slightly different. It's dramatically different between FanDuel and DraftKings because of the multiplier to salary on DraftKings where you don't have that on FanDuel. But you're still just trying to do the same thing, put together the lineup that scores the most amount of points. Same mechanisms. I don't think about it any differently or approach the slate any differently. Maybe you should. I don't.
Well, I guess with DraftKings, it's just a little bit different because on FanDuel, you're just looking for the highest raw score to go up top. But in the captain spot on DraftKings, it's a little bit different because you have you're paying 1.5x whatever their normal salary is, but you also get 1.5x their fantasy production.
Yep.
So it makes it a little bit different because people, wonder, can we punt? Can we go cheaper here and load up on the high end guys in the utility spot on a night like tonight in a playoff game where you're just going to get huge minutes across the board for all of the key players? Is there any justification? And I should say, there's going to be little value to be had, scarce value on a game 6 with tighter rotations, even with Taylor Jenkins, that you're not going to get a ton off the bench. Is there any merit to doing something like that?
Sort of. Minnesota makes this game a little bit more interesting because they've been going to 10 guys, which is insane. That's not the way that you should be playing in the playoffs, but here we are. Obviously, we know that that Memphis has been cutting their rotation further and further as we move through this. But right now, the top 3 guys that I have on DraftKings are all coming from Minnesota. So I think the focus is going to, in the aggregate at least, is going to be on this Minnesota Timberwolves team trying to save their season. But you're going to have options at the low salary spots to take a couple punts. Like if you think like Zaire Williams did not play a ton in this last game. He's 1,800 today. There is a shot that that's a value play that could work if he scores 7 fantasy points. That's where it starts to get really weird.
Yeah. Well, Zaire Williams is not playing tonight.
Officially?
He's doubtful.
Ooh, I thought he was questionable. Okay. My bad. Ignore me then.
No.
He's probably not the guy that's going to score 7 fantasy points.
We're good. I guess if he's out though, does it open anything up, or do you just see a couple more minutes go to a couple different players, few different players?
I think it just goes to more of the players that are already playing.
You would think so. Yeah. I mean,
I gave him 3 minutes today. I'll give those 3 minutes to anybody else, and it doesn't matter. And give them back to Melton, who's not really in the rotation any longer either.
Let's talk about the Grizzlies then and break this one down. 1 point spread. They're 1 point road favorites. 115 point implied total for the Grizzlies tonight. Ja Morant figured out a way to combat Taylor Jenkins' newly employed defensive strategy that limited Ja Morant to 16 points and 11 points in back-to-back games. The funny thing is he came in to the fourth quarter with only 12 points and then exploded, finished with 30, got to the line 17 times. It's funny too, because he only shot 11 for 17 from the free throw line, but ended up, being the catalyst to them, driving them to that win. Had one of the nastiest dunks I've ever seen in my life.
Ooh, it's just so violent. For such a little person.
Violent.
Although he's not little in real life, but little on the court at least.
Yeah, little going up against centers, sure.
Yeah, if you meet Ja Morant, he's way bigger than you think he is. He's just not like that when he's on a court with 8 other guys that are 6'7".
Dude, I weigh more than Ja Morant. I mean,
that makes sense. Yeah.
So I'm
wiry.
I'm 179, 180. He's 174. And
I got 40 pounds on him.
Do you?
Yeah.
And he's 6'3". So he's got 2 inches on me, but I'm 5 pounds heavier than the guy.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly not that big. So he is in the sense that you're talking about. Yeah, he's not big at all. He's real thin for an NBA player that's just going to run up and dunk on your head.
Yeah. And he's just violently yamming on people.
He has no fear is the thing. Completely fearless.
Certainly doesn't now. He's looking for that contact too.
Is he the best captain option today, or do we look at maybe we shouldn't even go by team? Let's just talk about preferred captain options and just best plays on the slate. It probably makes more sense.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, in my data, he's the best captain today. He's 17-7 as the captain. Showed up in 19% of my sims. The only other guy that was really close to him was Towns. Towns is 16-5, showed up in 17.5. So both of those guys are pretty close, but they definitely separated from the pack. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised that the best player on Minnesota and the best player on Memphis are the 2 best captain options for today, but that's how it is. There are 5 good options at captain, 2 above average options, and then probably no one else.
Right, yeah, probably. The thing with Towns is the foul trouble has been odd. I know he did get 35 games or 35 minutes last game. So, that's nice. But 2 fouls again in the first quarter, Josh.
Yeah.
A foul in the second quarter that kept him out for the remaining 3 minutes of the frame. And then it's very odd that this has been a recurring issue for him, not even just in this series. Remember, he fouled out of that Clippers game in the play-in game and only played like 23 minutes or 24 minutes.
Yeah. I don't know what the deal is.
What?
I don't know what the deal is with him.
That's what I was going to say. I was just going to say, am I going to diagnose this? I don't think I can, but because fouls are odd and Karl-Anthony Towns isn't somebody that's just always in foul trouble, but
he's never been below average in foul rate or close to it. The lowest percentile that he's ever had in terms of foul rate was in 2017, 2018. He was a 62nd percentile big in terms of foul rate, which is good. The higher the number, the better. 3.6% of possessions. Every year since then, 64th percentile, 78, 66, 72 this year. Not only is he not a guy that fouls a lot, he's the opposite. He's like good at not fouling, and that's just not happening in the playoffs.
It doesn't make any sense. And if you look at, so he played what? He's played 80 games and wait.
Go ahead.
He played 80 games. Okay, yeah, he missed. So and then what? 70. So I'm just looking regular season. So that would mean that 74 of them were in the regular season.
Yes.
He had 5 fouls in 19 games. So 5 or more fouls in 19 games, 25% of the time. He has 5 or more fouls in 4 of the 6 postseason or play-in games. Small sample, sure, but it's a weird thing. And it's not just like he's catching those fouls late in the fourth quarter where you see and they don't lose minutes. He's actually losing minutes in a lot of these games.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what it is. I assume it's some sort of change in defensive philosophy, or it's just much ado about nothing, but it is something to be concerned about for tonight and potentially moving forward.
Yeah.
That said, I think he looks great today.
Yeah, we don't have much of an alternative.
No, I mean, to me, he's probably the best play overall on the day.
We have his ownership right now. We have obviously the showdown ownership. And last I looked, we got some free content today on top of that. NBA player rankings are free. MLB ownership rankings are free. NHL player projections and MMA fighter rankings, all of which are completely free today. We have him projected for 70.8% on DraftKings, 23% in the captain spot. On FanDuel, we have Towns at 63% ownership, neck and neck with John Morant, 33% in the MVP. Ja's getting about 40 in the MVP spot, though.
I lost my tab. I have all my stuff here. Yeah, so I have Towns quite a bit over his aggregate ownership right now, so I'm pretty interested in Towns. Honestly, I think the high end is missing out. We're going to get to him in a bit. I've got my eye on Jared Vanderbilt today. Jordan McLaughlin at 2K is looking like an interesting value. We had a question earlier, like who are the other captains that are interesting for today? I think it's Morant, Brooks, Bane, Towns, Russell, Edwards. And I'm not breaking any new ground here that those are the best guys, but those are the best guys. Beverly to a lesser extent. If you want to punt, I think it's probably Vanderbilt as the guy you want to go to, but I'm not trying to get away from the guys that are going to play like 36 to 40 minutes today.
Brooks has had a few dismal performances in this series.
Yeah, and I'm going to recommend him aggressively again today, and people are going to be like, how could you play Dylan Brooks? It's abominable. It's like, okay, well, he's going to take 18 to 20 something shots.
Yeah, he was 10 of 20 from the field and 3 of 4 from the field in game 4. So it's not like he can't shoot. Look, is he volatile? Yes, very. But doesn't make a huge difference. 3 for 18 in game 5, 4 for 14 in game 3, 3 of 11 in game 2, 7 of 14 in game 1. So you never really know what you're going to get with Dillon Brooks. No. But if you can get the volume, you'll be okay. God, he was 1 for 10 from 3 last game.
Right. Like you just don't expect that. You should not expect that to happen.
No. Not what, 1 for 10 shooting from 3?
13 for 38 in back-to-back games. Price went down.
Yeah,
it's the only thing that matters. Price went down. And you should expect him to play more minutes, not less, moving forward.
He played 36 minutes last game, 34, and that was a little bit of foul trouble. Amazing that Dillon Brooks isn't the one we're talking about with foul trouble. It's Karl Anthony Towns.
He had 1 foul in 36 minutes in the last game. That's insane for him.
Nuts. But
he literally couldn't do anything. He couldn't make a shot. He couldn't foul people. Like he just, every single stat that he tried to have other than missed field goals.
He's trying to foul and can't. But he's played 37, 34, and he had 5 fouls in that game and 36 over his last 3. So assuming this game's close, and to be fair, as much as Minnesota enjoys blowing double-digit leads, the games stay close and probably should tonight with a 1-point spread. You're going to get the minutes from Dillon Brooks. Look, he's not good when it comes to putting up peripheral stats. He is someone that can go out there and shoot 3 for 18 from the field. But if you've attempted 20 and 18 field goals over your last 2 games and the volume is there, and there aren't exactly a ton of great mid-range options, mind you, he's 7,000 in the utility. That's pretty cheap. Then I think you can make sense of it. You really have to make sense of all of these guys, quite frankly. You'll have to take some stands, but if you're just writing any of these mid-range, like Beverly and up guys completely off, as you were pointing out a minute ago, you can't do that.
No, you can't. Look, anybody that you think can play today is somehow in play today. It might be minimal amounts. You know, your DeAnthony Meltons of the world at 3K who aren't really in the rotation any longer. It doesn't take a lot to get into an optimal lineup at 3K. Jordan McLaughlin, Taurean Prince, these are the guys that can, Jaden McDaniels, these are the guys that can sneak in as the final guy in a DraftKings lineup today and become essential. And they don't even have to have really good games. That's where it starts to get really, really wild. Like Taurean Prince is 1,400. He had 17 fantasy points in the last game. If Taurean Prince has 17 fantasy points today, he is unquestionably the linchpin to every lineup. It's like, it doesn't take much at those price tags.
No, it sucks, but that's the way it is. How about Brandon Clark, man? This kid last game, unreal. 21 and 15 with 3 assists and a block. 37 minutes. He played 20 straight, 19 minutes and 31 seconds straight to close out a competitive game that they came back from a 13-point deficit. Like I said, Minnesota had a almost 97% win percentage there in the fourth quarter. He was purely dominant on the boards. Everything about Brandon Clark's game off the bench for Memphis made them a markedly better team last game and had a lot to do with, of course, John Morant's 18 in the fourth. Yeah. Yes, of course.
6 offensive rebounds for Brandon Clark in the fourth quarter.
Just in the fourth?
Yeah.
6 offensive rebounds for any big in any game is very good in the full game.
Yeah. He had 9 for the game. That's insanity.
That is truly nuts. That's how you win basketball games. If you dominate the offensive glass, you are going to have a very difficult time losing games.
Can he do it again? Can he close them out? That's what we're waiting on, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he plays 37 again, but it seems silly to assume that Brandon Clark should not get more significant run again today, because he didn't just play well in one game. He's played well throughout the entirety of this series.
He's been great. I think the most curious part for him is going to be, can Jaren Jackson stay out of foul trouble? Because if Jaren Jackson stays out of foul trouble, they want to play him 30-something minutes. Like, that's the goal when we enter every one of these games. He can't even sniff it. I mean, 18 the last game, 23, 21. Jaren Jackson is a big linchpin to what we get out of Brandon Clark today. And they're not that they're going to be going to him today at all, but they definitely can't. Steven Adams, COVID.
Yeah, right. Adam mentioned this the other day, though. Even when Jaren Jackson isn't in foul trouble, he's still not getting 35 minutes.
No, we're talking about 30.
Yeah. The most
32 minutes, is probably like his ceiling today.
The most minutes he's played in this series is 27.
Yeah.
And to be fair, he probably will be in foul trouble again because he always is.
It'd be hard for him not to be.
Yeah, he always is in foul trouble.
If he's not in foul trouble, I have to assume Memphis is destroying Minnesota.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, though, can't you just give Clark and Jackson some decent run alongside of each other?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm saying Jackson can still get minutes and Clark can still, not 37, but Clark could still feasibly get to 30 minutes.
Yeah, I have him in for 30. I have Jackson in for 26. There's enough minutes out there where they could pretty easily both go north of 30 if they needed to.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, I think that's what I think in a dream scenario, they're playing Clark and Jackson alongside each other a lot. And Jackson's just staying out of foul trouble. That's what they want to happen.
Ultimately, I'm looking across all of these: Towns, Morant, Russell, Baines, Edwards, Beverly, Brooks, all of them. And they all are perfectly appealing. And that's because Beverly's not expensive either. But Brandon Clark's ownership really isn't very high because the prices come up. He's more expensive than Brooks, than Beverly. He's basically the same price as D'Angelo Russell, right in the same neighborhood as Desmond Bane. I think that does suppress the ownership enough tonight to where he's not going to end up being very popular despite last game where he went off.
I actually think he's an interesting captain. Oh, sorry. We're talking about, you were talking about Clark, right?
Yeah. Who are you going to talk about?
Jackson.
Go for it. That's fine. But yes, I was talking about Clark because Jackson's getting even less ownership.
Yeah, I can go back to Clark for a second. I actually came in well under the field. Clark's price for the past 5 games. We'll start at the beginning of the series. 3,800, 4,600, 5,400, 6,200, 7,400 up to 8K today. Now, obviously, this is a showdown price, so it's a little, look, those are all showdown prices, so they're a little bit different from a scope perspective. But I'm more than half the field below on Clark. I don't think that at 8K he looks all that great. I think he's over-owned. I think he's probably the most over-owned guy on the slate right now. I'm a little nervous about Clark. I just think the price is getting to a point where you don't have a choice any longer. You need those massive minutes from Clark. And I just don't think that he can unlock the same sort of game again. Could he be good? Yeah. It's hard to pay off an 8K salary.
The only argument I have there, though, is if you look at the guys that are similarly priced to him and not just him in a vacuum, these are all guys that have pretty low floors because from a peripheral standpoint, they're not giving you all that much. I mean, Brandon Clark on the series, 1.16 fantasy points per minute. Desmond Bane, 1.02. Brooks is cheaper, but 0.69 in this series, which is just brutal. Jackson, 1.11, but his minutes are going to be curtailed as usual. Is it really that crazy to think that, Clark can put up the same numbers as Desmond Bane again? Bane's been great, though. I take nothing away from him, but Bane's entirely dependent on scoring.
I'd be very, very, very surprised.
Okay.
I've got Bane by...
And he's locked in the more minutes.
7, yeah, right. I've got Bane by 7 fantasy points right now. Bane's just going to play 38, 40 minutes today. That's just how it's going to be. Whereas Clark just doesn't have to be out there like that.
Sure. And for what it's worth, I think Bane's a much better play, but he's also getting double the ownership of Clark. All right, talk to me about Jaren Jackson. You had some things to say about captain.
I just think that he's the one guy that's not going to get any ownership at the captain spot that has the ability to have an outlier day. Like, he's been bad. The foul trouble's been awful in this series. He had 7 blocks in game 1, but just happened to be 4 of 13 from the field, 0 for 5 from 3. Like, he has the ability to hang a high-end score and get there with a bunch of additional defensive stats if it breaks correctly. And he's not going to get any love. Like, you don't normally have a lot of guys that aren't like, we have him projected for 0.8% ownership in the captain spot. Would you be surprised if he was the second highest scorer on today's slate?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yes.
You would be surprised by that?
If Jaren Jackson was?
But like, he is skilled to do that. He just plays himself off the floor from a fouls perspective. It's not like we think he's not really good at the things that he does. If he stays out of foul trouble, there's no reason that he can't be the second best option on Memphis today. And honestly, potentially the first. I mean, Jaren Jackson is a 1.14 fantasy point per minute guy in my model. I don't think that it takes a lot for him to be on a completely different level here if it breaks correctly and he stays out of foul trouble. I think he's the guy that you want to go to in a really large field contest when, like, you're willing to take on that sort of aggression.
How many 50 fantasy point games do you think he has this season?
I don't know. 2.
Good guess. 2.
Okay.
And 9 with 45 plus.
Yeah. I
just don't know if the minutes are there. Like, the minutes, and then you basically are going to need him to be almost like a 1.75 fantasy point per minute guy. Because it's not like these are two teams where there's just nobody that's all that interesting. I mean, Ja, and I know he's more expensive, but Ja is ripping off 50 plus every night, even when he's not scoring well. Karl Anthony Towns, assuming he's not in foul trouble, has been dominant from a fantasy perspective. Anthony Edwards is hit or miss for sure, but he can go insane. I just think there's a lot of guys here that if we're trying to get Jaren Jackson above, all but one of them, it seems like a very difficult path.
Yeah, look, again, I don't think that it's particularly likely, but he's the guy that's the per minute outlier whose biggest issue in this series is minutes. Like, he's got the biggest upgrade in the thing that he needs the most. Because we know that he's already talented on a per minute basis. He just needs the minutes. That's been his biggest bugaboo in this entire series.
But I don't think he gets them, is what I'm saying.
I think it's more likely than not that he just puts himself into foul trouble and doesn't get them.
Yeah,
I completely agree.
That's also entirely possible.
But he's the guy who, for every extra minute he gets, is infinitely better than other guys in this series.
From a minute standpoint, I agree. Other than Brandon Clark, I think on a per minute basis is probably better, or at least equal.
I have Jackson by 0.05 of a point, but that's enough where I don't really. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, equal.
Hey, check out PrizePicks too while you guys are at it. If you haven't done so yet, some real easy, simple reasons to sign up there. First off, you get $100 first match deposit bonus when you use the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO. Over at PrizePicks, they have daily prop-based contests. There's no sharks, optimizers, mass entries, any of that stuff. You're just building lineups, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever you want, player lineups, taking props. And if you hit 5 of 5, you 10x your entry. You hit 4 of 5, unlike a traditional prop, you still 2x. You even get money back if you hit 3 of 5. You're not going to get that at traditional books. You can do cross-sport entries as well. So say you like basketball tonight, but you also maybe some hockey or some baseball, mix them into the same lineup, and use the free PrizePicks NBA prop tool over at Awesemo to help make those selections. I mean, we have all of the free prop tools over there for PrizePicks, for everything. We have Odd Shopper. All of that's great, right? Especially the $100 first match deposit bonus. But if you sign up using the link in the description or the one that our producer, Tyler Zander, is about to throw in the chat right now, or already did, you get a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. $90 value, every single tool for every sport on the site. There is not a tool or a sport that is not included in this. It's entirely free. All you have to do is use the link in the description and make a one-time deposit over at PrizePicks. You'll get an email from us within a day or two to get hooked up for that free month. We'll get you into our premium Discord, into the office hours channel where the pros are answering your questions each day, and take advantage of everything that we have. If you want to get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on, you can do that as well. But check out PrizePicks, use that link, sign up with the link, deposit for the first time using the promo code Awesemo, get the $100 first match deposit bonus, and a free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, the entire month totally free. All right, Josh, let's look at a little bit of value before we close this out. I think we've done a good job of covering the guys up top.
Sure.
If we're talking value and we need to squeeze some of this in, how do we do it by still giving ourselves somewhat of a chance to be competitive and not just being purely stupid for a guy that's probably not going to play?
Yeah, there's not a lot of great value spots out there. That's for sure. Like I think Taurean Prince might get a little bit more love than he should today based on that last game. I think Naz Reid is going to pull a little bit of love, which is whatever. I think he's probably about properly owned at 1,600. Jordan McLaughlin is the guy that I think is most interesting, at least as of right now. He's 2K. We have him at 9.9% ownership in the utility spot. I got him in at 16. He is a little bit more expensive than he had been, but he played 17 minutes this last game, 14 the game before that, and 17 in game 3. I think that's pretty interesting to me. Now, do I expect him to have 16 points on 5 of 6 shooting again, like he did in game number 4? No, game number 3. Sorry. No, game number 4. I was right the first time. But I don't even think that you need 26 fantasy points out of him. You get something in the teens, and I think you're going to be in a pretty good spot. So the guy that I'm looking at right now from a value perspective would be Jordan McLaughlin if we're just talking about like trying to get over the field. I would rather go to him and then be a little bit lighter on the Naz Reid, Taurean Prince pieces just because of their ownership being as high as it is. And then I wouldn't sleep on Malik Beasley. He's the type of guy that if things are going, like if the shot's falling, Beasley's just going to stay out there a little bit longer. He's 4K, so you need a little bit more out of him, but I think that's sort of self-fulfilling. When he's getting extra minutes, it's because he's just knocking down 3 after 3 after 3. I mean, he's an exceptional 3-point shooter. If those are falling, he has the opportunity to just hang it. Like he went 4 for 10 or whatever in game 1 of the series, 8 of 14 in 30 minutes. The minutes have been going down. That makes me interested in trying to get to the opposite side of that on the off chance that they pop back up because he is 4% owned.
I think Jaden McDaniels is as interesting as anyone on this slide.
Yeah. No issue there.
He had 3 quick fouls, got in foul trouble last game, and ended up sitting. Let's see where it is here. I just want to make sure I had the right game up. Yeah, ended up sitting the final. Was it? Yeah, Prince came back in. Jaden McDaniels would have closed that half out, so he lost 4 minutes there, and then he closed the game out. In a competitive game. The game before that, 5 fouls, got in a ton of foul trouble. If Jaden McDaniels, isn't in foul trouble, I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but I think there's a definite chance that he gets to 22 to 24 minutes. In the first 3 games, he played 25, 21, and 22 minutes. Is he a high fantasy point per minute guy? But none of these guys are. And if they are, they're not getting enough minutes to be, significant. So yeah, I think Jaden McDaniels at very low ownership is totally reasonable. If you could tell me, hey, he could play 22 minutes in a playoff game and he's cheap, I got no issues there.
Yeah, to me, I see him just basically in the same line as Malik Beasley. One of those 2 guys can just soak up a little bit of extra time, and it won't take much for them to turn into optimal scores. Sure. The only reason I looked at Beasley before I looked at McDaniels is because McDaniels was pulling a little bit more ownership out of the gate, but I don't have a disagreement with what you're saying.
From the Memphis side, though, value is really scarce. I know Xavier Tillman is somebody that's going to get some ownership. He's actually very popular right now, all things considered, when you're talking about value guys. Is that one of those spots that we want to get to and just bite the bullet, or should we just say, hey, I'd rather get to some of these potentially lesser owned guys at essentially half the ownership of him that are actually a little bit cheaper as well.
I just don't know how you go to Memphis for value. It's Tillman and nothing else.
And I know Tillman's a big man. We love big man value because they can produce easy stats, but he doesn't.
No.
He's been wildly disappointing. I know on the regular season, his per minute production's fine. And so I don't just want to take a few games here and single them out, but I don't know, man. He's been underwhelming to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, he's doing what he's supposed to do from a basketball standpoint, which is not going to be incredibly helpful from a fantasy standpoint. He's not involved in the game in that way. That said, if you need to pay down, I think he's massively over-owned already at 24% in the utility spot. So it's not a direction I want to go. And I don't really think there's anything below him at this point that you can go to if we're not going to have Zaire Williams. And it looks like Melton isn't a part of the rotation any longer. I think if you're looking for value, you can only grab it from from Minnesota.
Last thing I wanted to ask you, do you think and I know that Tillman only played 16 minutes. He's in one of those rotations where you just start the first, start the third. You don't play. Well, he did play a little bit in the second, but is it possible that he loses even more minutes because Jenkins just decides, why don't I run more Clark alongside Jaren Jackson?
Probably, yeah. I mean, look, a lot of it comes down to is Jaren Jackson in foul trouble again? If Jaren Jackson stays out of foul trouble, you're naturally going to lose a little bit more of Tillman.
Right.
I think he's pretty firm in the first quarter run, third quarter run rotation. I'm going to feel pretty safe with him landing in the 12 to 18 range.
Yeah, agreed. That's what I'm saying, though. That 16 could drop. He could lose that little second quarter rotation and end up only playing 12.
Yeah, that he's live to do that for sure.
Right. Last guy, and then we can get out of here for the day. Hit that thumbs up, too. We got how many people? We got over 300 watching for a showdown slate.
It's not bad.
Appreciate you guys. I mean, it's going to be a stretch to get to 100. We need 29 still. You think so? You think it's doable?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Why not?
It's doable, though. Take a single second.
Always.
Get us there. As someone said yesterday, Josh, with you and me, it's all about ego, which isn't true. I promise. Well, there are far more things that are better to inflate an ego than a likes count. It just helps us is all.
Yeah. Like my ego doesn't go up from this at all.
No. So the last guy to ask you about, Tyus Jones.
Yeah.
He's, again, maybe not exciting, but he's a 1.25 fantasy point per minute player in this series. He's been good in the minutes that he's gotten. And guess who closed out last game's come from behind victory against the Minnesota Timberwolves? That would be one Tyus Jones closing that game out.
I think he's properly owned at 10%. I think 4,800 is a tough sell. You need
for what it's worth. I'm sorry, he closed that out because Jaren Jackson fouled out, but still, he's an but that could happen again. Sorry, I wanted to point that out.
No, you're fine. He needs every single one of those minutes to matter at 4,800. 20, 25, 25, 21 are the fantasy point totals over the past 4 games. He's good, not great. To me, he's just a part of this slate. I can't really advocate for him all that hard because I think that price is in a problematic spot. I don't think they're going to go to him for excessive minutes in this one. I think, something in the 16 to 22 range is the most likely scenario.
All right. Anything else then?
Not really. I mean, this is a very variant series and game. Anything could happen tonight, and I believe it. These two teams are just wild right now. But try to play the ownership game. There are going to be a couple spots where you're going to think people are wildly overowned. Just use that as your pivot point. That's my recommendation.
That hour went really fast.
It certainly did. I can't believe we were on the show for an hour.
Me neither. I thought it's 10:45 right now. Shout out to Tyler Zander for producing the show. We're 7 likes away.
Told you we can get there.
God. Well, we're not going to get there.
No, we are. We are going to get there.
No, we're not going to make it.
Not with that attitude.
Oh, don't hit me with that shit. MLB strategy show's coming up next. Greg and Eric at 11 o'clock. Then here's what's cool. What's not cool is that What's up?
Hundy, man. A Hundy.
Oh, we're there.
Yes.
Boom. Told you we were going to make it. See, just follow my lead, man. We didn't just hit 100. We're 113.
I know. I told you it would happen.
Good stuff. So I'm not huge on the fact that I'm doing a show from 7 to 8 Eastern, but it allows us the opportunity to have MLB Deeper Dive and MLB Live before lock, then NBA Deeper Dive and NBA Live before lock. So pretty stoked on that. We got full arrangement of shows coming up today, but don't go anywhere. 2 minutes right here on the Awesemo channel. You've got the MLB strategy show. Josh, do you do contenders for showdowns?
They're going to get recorded the moment we stop this.
There it is. And check out my video today. Comes out around 2 Eastern over at the Odd Shopper channel. Favorite props, favorite bets of the day. Hit that Monday through Friday. And I think Eitan's actually doing weekends going forward. So thanks for hanging out as always, fellas. We appreciate you, and we'll see you back here very shortly. Peace.
Peace.